Hello there, my name is Kuma, and today I want to talk about IS5, which was released today on CN. From the get-go, I can say that IS5 is promising to be the best iteration of integrated strategies yet, which makes sense considering we've been improving with each iteration since Kyobe's Fundamist. So let me tell you about some of the things in IS5 that I think are super amazing. First thing, the new rune system. Runes are back, but they're not Foldartals anymore, they have a different name. But the important part is, they don't work the exact same as before, they are much better. In the Foldartal system that we had to use 2 runes together to get a special buff. Here, whatever rune you can use by themselves to give you a buff for one singular node. But that's not all, you drop a lot of those runes. And you can combine those runes in the new node that we have, which is the crafting node, that you can use to either get relics, or shields, or hope, depending on what runes you combine. Of course you're gonna want to make as many relics as possible, and this is going to be another point in integrated strategies where we are going to have the opportunity to use our skills as players of IS to get even more powerful, and I really appreciate that. Because here's the thing, you would want to carry all the runes that you find to the crafting node and just make relics, but you can't, because there is a negative effect for you to be carrying too many runes. The limit of runes, the limit of how many you can carry, is gonna depend on the operators that you have. You can equip up to 3 operators into the rune slot, they're going to be your rune bearers, and they are gonna increase your limit. I think you also get more limit when you level up, and there are relics that increase your limit, all that kind of good stuff. But when you have those rune bearers equipped, it can be literally any operator, how much they increase is only gonna depend on their rarity and their status of promotion, if they are E1 or E2. When you have those operators equipped, you're just gonna increase your max capacity and you're gonna be able to carry more runes that you can then bring into the crafting node and make all the relics you want. Of course it depends on the runes you have, but you get my point. More capacity, more gooder. And the bad side, if you get over your max capacity, you can still go 50% over. But here is where they put the curse system this time. You're not gonna be punished for leaking HP anymore. Your operators are not gonna all be hit with metatastic aberration because you went through the floors and you lost a bunch of light. You're not gonna start getting a bunch of collapsal curses because you had to leak some enemies to survive. The curse is all going to be in the fact that you decided to carry more runes because you wanted to use more of them in the crafting node. And you can always discard runes, you can always just use them to get yourself a little bonus in the next fight. So it's your decision to get cursed like that. Of course there are still some floor modifiers, especially stuff that you can get in the Bosque Passage, they're a little bit different now. You still have some things that can go against you, but the bulk of the stuff, the annoying curses, they are in your power to stop, and you can decide to play without them. You just gotta accept that you're gonna have less runes, you're gonna have a less powerful run. But that's really nice. But that is actually not all for the rune system, because just like we had keys in IS3 or index in IS4, we have a special type of rune in IS5 that works just like those keys and index. And you can use those special runes to do basically 2 things. You can use them to either move up and down, like you would with index, or you can use some of them to reroll normal nodes. So if you don't want to take an encounter, you can say, reroll this, give me something different, you might get a battle, that would be super nice, you might get a shop. You don't really choose, but just the ability to reroll a node is super powerful. You get a emergency that you are not comfortable with, that you think your squad can't beat, that's okay, you can get rid of it, you can turn it into something else. That is really nice. But also you can use those special runes, those keys, to level up some of your nodes. You can level up your shop, you can level up your crafting node, you can level up your safe house. Some of those upgrades, they stay there forever, they are permanent. You just have to spend a little bit of time leveling them up, and they just stay like that. and then you have some random special buffs that you can unlock in future runs just by using a couple keys. It's great how they decided to do the key system this time and how they decide to do the rune system. It feels fresh, it feels interactive, it feels very skillful. Anyone willing to learn how to play is gonna be very powerful. And you can see that in some of the runs. We had a preview released on CN a couple days ago that showed us someone from Hypergriff playing, and they finished their run with 44 relics, I think. So we clearly have a lot more opportunities to get good stuff. Today I would say that a very good run is gonna end with around 35 relics, but that's clearly gonna increase, and it's gonna feel amazing when we compare our runs after we learn how to do the skillful stuff to people who don't really know what they are doing. It's just gonna be amazing. But of course, as you can see in the footage that I'm showing you, it's not only the rune system that has changed. We have a bunch of new enemies, we have a bunch of new stages. This IS5 is completely built around Sarkas. So we have a bunch of new mechanics, new interactions. We have some enemies from chapter 14, of course. But I think the enemy that I really want to call your attention to is the rat, because the rat enemy is an NPC that we already know from before. This guy is a new addition to the Duck Lord Mafia, but he is also the rat that we found in the Hope Gamble node, in the Downtime Recreation. He is back with his Downtime Recreation to give hope, but he is also here to be fought as a special enemy. He has the mechanics of the turtles in the Monster Hunter Collab event, where there is one side of the enemy that is always gonna be taking reduced damage, and the other side is gonna be taking full damage. But not only that, you can actually get a fight with this guy from the Downtime Recreation. If you gamble hope with him a couple times and he decided, nah, I'm tired of you, then he just gives you the opportunity to fight him. It's really cool. Of course, we have a bunch of other special fights in IS5. We have a very cool new mechanic where we have some duels. Early on, you're gonna have to fight duels on 1-on-1. You can use your operator and you choose one enemy. And then you're gonna have to win the fight in 2 minutes. And you either lick the guy and you lose the duel, or you win the fight and you win the duel and you get a relic for it. Later on, you're gonna have duels that are 2-on-2. You can choose 2 of your operators and 2 of the enemies. And what is really cool about this is that in those duels, you can actually get some of the special enemies, some of the Duck Lord Mafia. And when you kill them inside those duels, you also get a relic for each one that you kill. So you can get out of a duel with 3 new relics if you somehow fought the Duck Lord and Gopnik, as we see here. It's just so cool, the kind of stuff that you can get, and the amount of thinking that you're gonna have to have when you are doing your run. What operators can you bring that could win a duel? Of course, it's gonna be much easier when you put 6 stars into consideration, but still, just the idea that you can learn what operators are gonna be able to kill what bosses, it's just so cool. Another thing that I want to talk about are synergies, relic synergies. They were implemented in IS5. But just calm down because they are not that impressive. From what I've seen, the synergies that exist are from the class hands, which some of them became super cool. You're gonna have to have a look at those hands because some of the new hands are super amazing, and I'm not gonna go into details about their effects. But the important part I want to talk about the hands is that the hands work together with class books now. Depending on the number of class books that you have, your hand is gonna do an extra effect, and it's gonna make your operators even more powerful. That is really cool because the class books already being divided into small groups of books because they are class books. Now they have another effect with one another. They are synergistic, and I really like that. This is not a very good implementation of synergies. IS has a long way to go before they can say that they have a good implementation of that, but this is a start. And if they keep just making IS better, we're gonna get there. We're gonna have synergies one day working properly. That's something to look forward to. Another thing that seems to be happening now is that they decided to move away from the attempt that they had in IS4, where they were trying to make floor 1 and floor 5 harder, because you had the power of runes and that kind of stuff, and you had to use some melee ops to get through floor 1, that kind of good stuff. It looks like they changed their mind a little bit. They went back on that and they just made the entirety of IS a more linear experience. Which kinda makes sense. It didn't make too much sense what we had in IS4, where our ideal scenario was to get to floor 5 and turn the entire thing into shops. Like, it is really cool. I really enjoyed playing like that. And we're gonna have to keep playing like that because we still have a bunch of IS4 to play because, you know, 4th ending is coming. We're gonna have to grind. But the fact that you want to skip an entire floor is not really an experience that makes much sense from a game design perspective. So I think going back on the idea is better. And while we are talking about things that they are doing better, let's talk about how to get to endings, because that also had some improvements. Because you know, in IS4, we already had the change from which we don't have to grind for RNG to go for a specific ending anymore. If you want to go for a specific ending, you always have the opportunity to do so. It's just that it's a little bit excruciating. You gotta play with your index high, you gotta go for the path that just is gonna give you less fights, is gonna make you weaker in general. So, you didn't have the RNG, you could choose to just go for the perfect route, but you would end up being a little bit weaker. In contrast, from IS2 and IS3, where to go for the ending, you just had to go for encounters, become very very weak possibly, and it wasn't guaranteed that you would get the ending you wanted. You could very well just stay there grinding for hours and hours and resetting because you still have a stamp on ending 4 that you gotta find. But that's not the case anymore. IS4 already fixed that, and IS5 makes things better. Because for ending 2, you can always get a rune that you can use in the crafting node to craft the relic for that ending, for ending 2. That is not the same for ending 3, but that is a very good improvement already. Because think about it, you don't have to skip anything anymore. You don't have to choose a bad path. You just take the rune and craft it. It's just incredible. That is really the way that the ending should be. It should be a choice that you always have. And of course, the endings should be harder than the first one. So it's your choice to make your life harder. But also, I know how the third ending can be achieved. And it is still to go and find a trading node. Just the same that we have for ending 2 in IS4. So they didn't really go all the way out with the crafting system to make the endings. But they are in the way. They want to see it out. They want to see how it plays. And I hope they like it, because I think it's the better way to do things. And there is another little thing that I just remembered. Again, about the rune system. The rune system is too cool, I'm sorry, but I have to talk about this. The runes, they have some effects that work when they are not being used. When you don't use them for battle, when you don't use them to craft stuff. There are some of them that have effects that just exist for you to generate more runes. For example, there's a rune that after you spend it in any way that you want, it just comes back in the next floor. There's a rune that every floor that you go through, it duplicates, and you can just make a lot of them, because one can turn into 2, then into 4, then into 8, you know how it works. So like, you're really gonna have to work with your capacity system, because you're gonna have those runes that duplicate, that you can use to generate more stuff in the crafting node. It's just gonna be so skillful, it's just gonna feel so good to play. I can't wait for the new rune system. It's just gonna be so amazing. And I just don't know if I mentioned before, so I'm just gonna mention this now again. The amount of runes that you can carry, of course you have your capacity, you can go over 50% of your capacity and you're gonna be fine. You're just gonna get some curses, you're gonna live with it. Who cares a little bit of curse, right? You can always get rid of it just by going to your normal capacity again. But getting past 50% more than your capacity is impossible. You can always buy more runes in the shop, get more runes for encounters, but after you get them, you're forced to use or discard some of them until you get to 150% of your capacity. You can't go over, you can't walk anymore. But really, that's what I wanted to say today, guys. I am really excited for IS5. I think it's gonna be super amazing. I think it's gonna be better than IS4, which is impressive because IS4 was already super good. I will still be playing IS4, of course. I still have to get the stamps for 4th ending when it comes out. But I want everyone to be excited about IS5. And if you don't like IS, well, then I'm sorry. But you have other stuff to play in the game. Arknights is massive. Anyway, I think that's what I wanted to say. I hope everyone has a very nice day. Peace out.